Hi, and welcome to Heaven. This is Julia Kivilda,
and Raquel Alves.
and today is our 1 year anniversary episode, and so we're joined by a very, very, very special guest, Ola Żółkowska.
Good day, everyone. It's 6 a.m. in Australia and I woke up.
Yeah, we're faced with a bit of a time difference, so it's like 7 p.m. here in London, and we're drinking wine, and Ola is on coffee, I'm assuming, because
Yeah.
it's very early in the morning. So thank you for making time for us
Yeah,
and
thank you for
joining us
coming.
here today.
And welcome to Heaven with us for the first time.
Yes,
Welcome to Heaven.
you've officially fell asleep, woke up, and went to heaven. So you're welcome.
And here you are.
Thank you so much, girls, for having me. Honestly, this is such an honor. I've been listening to the podcast for a year.
Yes.
It has a year. I've been listening to it since it came out, so it's an honor. I cannot wait. Yes, I need coffee.
Yeah, and since it's been a year, this episode is very special because we're gonna talk about how much can change in life in a year, because a lot has changed in our lives and in yours too, which is why we're our special guest today. Yeah, tell us a bit about what's been happening.
Yeah, in your latest journey, we want to talk about changes in life that to do with jobs or quitting jobs, moving abroad, and all those funny stuff which we experience on a small scale, but Ola has been experiencing on a very large scale. So we'd love to talk to you about that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you can say so. As Raquel said, it's been a very intense year. I must admit, it was very intense the past 3 weeks, because the past 3 weeks I came back. I was living in the desert for 4 months. So in the past 3 weeks, I came back from living in the desert. Just crazy, right?
Mhm.
And my life has finally started again. So I'm kind of feel like I've started my life twice this year because I quit twice. And that's where it comes to. So the first time I quit was the beginning of this year. I quit my corporate job after 3.5 years to live a free and happy life, what I thought it would be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, I moved from Poland to Australia because Australia is the happiest place I've always remembered. I studied in Australia 4 years ago, and I came here to find happiness. And the answer is, whether did I find the happiness? I'll leave the answer for a little bit later on.
The end of the
Yeah.
episode, stay
Stay
tuned.
tuned for folks to know.
Yes, but technically I did start my life again from scratch twice, because it was the beginning of this year, February, when I moved to Australia, and then the second time was when I quit my job in the desert. And I was in the desert just because, and I had a job in Australia. I usually don't have a job in Australia, but I had a job in order to prolong my visa. So it's like not very a happy topic. But I was employed for 3.5 months again, and I quit my job and I started living again 3 weeks ago.
No, that's very interesting. Because I think we are kind of experience the same feeling of like we want to quit, we want to go away. And in my case, for example, I kind of quitted, not voluntarily, but kind of quitted a corporate world and tried to be more independent and do more freelancing, and then found myself in a corporate world again, also not voluntarily.
Really?
And yeah, kind of. It's a funny story, but because it's also a freelance job, but it's way more corporate again, and feeling this like employed life just for like a free trial almost of a corporate life, and then they'll finish. And it just reminded me again of how I don't want to be back at the corporate world, but it feels like I keep having to come back for financial reason, and then I never can really break free. It's really interesting from you that you like kind of quit it twice in 1 year, and how is that like shaping you as well?
I feel like everyone I talk to is thinking, like everyone in our generation, let's say like our age group, is thinking of changing their life like very drastically. I feel like people are so done with everything that's going on, and they kind of just are looking to be more independent, and they want to be more independent by like starting their own thing, but the only way they can do that is by quitting their like day-to-day jobs, which is obviously quite unrealistic for most people because we need money to survive. Especially like, all of us being like from different countries. It's not only like having money, but also, as you said, having your immigration status, so like having a visa, or like in our case like someone status to be able to survive. So yeah, can you tell us like how did you actually end up in the desert? Because I actually haven't spoken to you about that either, and I only saw it for Instagram, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing in like the most remote place in the world?
I genuinely thought you were doing a social experiment. That was my theory.
A social experiment.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, oh, she's always on crazy adventure. Maybe she's gonna do a social experiment.
Yeah, I honestly
the
thought it
desert.
was like going off grid, trying to like escape from big city life.
Well, I wish that was like just a glamorous reason for me to be there. Unfortunately, it was not. And the truth is not very happy. It's not how it looks on Instagram, how beautiful the place, because the place is actually beautiful. And the desert is just a magical place. I mean, who the hell moves to the middle of nowhere and lives in the middle of the freaking desert for 4.5 months? No, 3.5 months.
You do.
You did.
I do, yeah. But I was kind of, I don't want to say forced to it, but it's just, it's the visa condition that you have to work the regional work in Australia in order to prolong the visa. And so many very intelligent, passionate people are forced to do this kind of thing, regional work. And I've spoken to so many people in Australia about this, and they're usually saying that it's like the worst thing that happened to them. And I really didn't want my experience to be the worst thing to happen to me in Australia, in the country I love, in the country I moved, finally find the pure happiness, which I will touch upon on how's the non-working going for me, quitting the corporate job. But just going back to the desert. So I thought I should be smart about this, right? Because usually when you do regional work, you have to work on like a farm, pick fruit, and
So it has to be like contributing to like Australia as a country.
exactly. I mean, you basically do the jobs that Australians don't want to do because
Oh my
who
God.
wants to do fruit picking, right? In the full sun, in like 40 degrees. No one. That's the answer. So I thought I can be smart about this. And I moved to a 5-star resort in the middle of the desert. And I was working there as a tour guide, as a host of a restaurant. I was doing multiple jobs. I was in the rotation, but they were all the jobs that were below my skill set. And like at one point in my life, I promised myself I would never do this because that's not why I went to university, got amazing 2 degrees, world-renowned universities, and then I got so much experience in the corporate world. And I told myself I'll never go back to jobs like this because I am skilled, right? But when you face a decision, when you live in the country you love so much and your life is so happy and it's just everything
relationship with Australia.
Yes, when you literally love Australia so much that you cannot love this country more, you'll do anything to prolong to be able to prolong your stay in here. So that's how I ended up in the desert. And unfortunately, it wasn't the happiest experience. It was the only 3.5 months in Australia where I wasn't spitting rainbows and bunnies and sunshine. It was really, really harsh.
Maybe that was necessary for you because sometimes, sure, you're like living your dream, but it's good to like also stay grounded and like no place is perfect, I guess. And I think it's also very interesting when you're saying about, yeah, I'm so skilled and, you know, I have these degrees, I have this work experience, and then I found myself in this situation. I think it's also quite interesting when you kind of break off this almost traditional path, how things can very quickly turn around, and it's almost what actual success looks like, because you might have been working in that hotel for those few months, but to us you look so extremely successful because you moved to a country that you love, you actually did what everyone is afraid of, and you're working for it. And I think that's really part of it, even if it doesn't look success at first from your side, or even if you shared that to other people, it's actually not going down, you actually keep on going up.
Yeah, that's true. We've been like following what you've been doing on Instagram, and I've always been like, wow, you're doing such like crazy things, and it's just like it's so cool from the outside, like no matter how like and you know, you may be like working in hospitality or whatever, but you're not doing it in any place, you're doing it in a place you love, and you're working towards, at least you know you're working towards something that will bring you happiness, and it's like your ultimate goal, which I think is really nice. Because I feel like a lot of people, including me, keep working every day and seemingly have these successful corporate jobs that seem like a dream career or whatever, but in the end of the day, it's not something that we want to do. as our life pursues, something that is really unfulfilling in the end of the day. Like, even if you're very good at it and maybe you have like fulfilling moments throughout, ultimately it's very like soul crushing, because you kind of feel like you're wasting your time. Like, I feel like the whole year has passed and I haven't done anything remarkable, even though I have, and I've made like successes in my job. But I feel like because it's not something that you're truly passionate about, it just feels personally like to you as a person as unfulfilling and unsuccessful. Whereas what you're doing, in contrary, seems like so inspiring, because we know that you're working towards something that you truly love.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, girls. Honestly, so good to see you again and speak to
I
you.
know, it's so
And
weird.
I can resonate with what you're saying so much, especially about the corporate world and having those little milestones, but day by day, it's just a process of getting there, right? And it's just almost every day you have to like wake up, go to work, spend there 8 hours, 9 to 5, sometimes more, I can see.
Doing that unpaid overtime,
Those 8 hours are coming to 12, like nothing happened.
Yeah, and the thing is that like technically it's just 8 hours, but then you think about it all the time, because often it's so stressful that it never really like leaves you, so it kind of permeates every aspect of your life, and it's such a big part that you can't really like switch off from it, and it's like makes your whole life all about it. And that's so depressing, because if it's not something that you really want to do, and if it's not something that you feel fulfilled by, then it just feels like you're wasting your time. Even though to others, again, it may seem really successful, it may seem like you're doing so well because others would kill for that job or to be in a place that you are, but it's then even more stressful because you're faced with a dilemma, like, oh, if I quit, like, am I just throwing all of this away? Am I doing something wrong? Because other people would love to be in that position and I'm so privileged. So am I actually wrong for not appreciating what I have right now? Like, is it not like too greedy to be like wanting something more? But yeah.
Well, everything you've just said, Julia, that exactly explains why I quit for the first time and why I decided to leave and do this whole Australia experience. Because I felt really sad when I was working in a corporation. I mean, I was happy, of course, when I was, getting promotions, getting to attend all those beautiful events. So it's not like I hated the workplace itself, because I've met some incredible people there. It was such a nice environment. The work was also amazingly, really great for me, for my development in my career, which is digital marketing and marketing overall. But it was the idea of me being stuck in an office for 8 hours or more every day that I couldn't stop thinking about it, that I'm wasting the best years of my life stuck behind a desk and working towards someone else's success, not my success, because my success is when I am self-employed and I'm working for myself. While here it's working for someone else. And I just didn't, for 3.5 years, I did not have the guts to leave that very comfortable setting when you get the monthly salary, right?
Yeah, and a good salary too. For you, you're also like in Warsaw, which is like where all your friends are and all your family.
Yes.
I feel like, it's like the first time we can also live like a really comfortable and independent life, moving out of home, fully having your own place, experiencing life because you're getting a good salary. So in a sense, you're living like a very, as you said, like a very, very comfortable life. And it's hard to let go of that and take the risk and make the leap.
It's scary, yeah. It's scary to take that leap because you might lose all the little good things that you get with that job, or you get with that type of life. And I also feel so many times that I really resonated when you're saying like, oh, I am doing this for someone else's success. Like, that's kind of what I felt the most when I was working like a very regular 9 to 5 every day and going to the office, even though I was always telling them that I couldn't go.
Yeah, you were going to the office like 1 day a week.
Yeah, that's the minimum that I could get. But anyway, like, I just felt like I just keep working on things that don't matter to me, because of course, even if I do my dream job, let's say, there will be days that are not going to be dreamy. Like, that's with any job, but there problem is that all the struggles I'm going through will be worth it because it's for something that I care about. And sometimes I would be in the desk and I would look outside the window and I'm like, I don't care about anything that's going on at the moment. Anything that I'm doing, anything that I've been working the last few hours, I'm like, I don't care about any of this shit, pretty much. So that's like such a wake-up call. It's like I would much rather struggle actually towards that I care about over like contributing to someone else's success. Sometimes I would have my superiors coming to me in a sense of like, oh, we want you to be very invested on this, to be like really inside the job, like, and to care. And I'm like, yeah, I think that's like actually my problem. I don't care.
Why would you care? Yeah, why would you care if it's not anything that contributes to like your personal gain?
Yeah, exactly.
And very often it's not even like projects that you can ultimately like be proud of. It's not things that are like aligned with your personal values or your personal style or whatever. So it's not even something that you can finish and then say, wow, this is like, I made this, I worked on this. I might have worked on it for a different company, but at the end of the day, I made this and I'm proud of this. I feel like that's really rare. Like most of the time you do something, it's super stressful, you're working on like a project or whatever, it happens, and then you move on to the next thing because the next thing comes along, and you get to like reflect and proud of yourself and enjoy what you've done, because
or even just enjoying the process of what you're doing, because then there's like all those deadlines and it's never realistic and you're always just like fighting against the clock, and it's like such a horrible way of living, of always fighting against time. Is like the most ridiculous thing you can do as a human, I feel. And that's like what's expected from you. Like I can't like I'm so tired.
I know. And I think the scariest part about leaving is because we've been prepared for corporate jobs. I mean, 9-to-5 jobs for our whole life. You go to primary school, then you go to middle school, then high school, then you go to a good uni. You're being taught to work in a certain way to prepare you to work in a workforce. So you know, like you have to go to school from 9 to 5 as well, because then eventually as an adult, you're going to go to work from 9 to 5, and you're being taught how to think strategically as well and how to like work for someone. And when society has been preparing you for something your whole life, then you don't really know what it's going to be like when you suddenly say, no, I don't want that, I quit.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very hard, and then you kind of end up being on your own and you have to manage your own time and you are like your own boss, and you kind of, it depends on you whether what you do and if you make it or not, largely. So I feel like it almost becomes an option paralysis, because if you have nothing to do, then you can literally do anything that you put your mind to, and I feel like that can often be also so paralyzing because you don't even know like start.
Like the options are so endless. Like I remember when I got jobless and it was very sudden, it was not my choice, but I kind of took it later on as an opportunity to start doing something new. But at some point I was like, okay, should I go freelance? Should I apply for something new? Should I move countries? Should I move to here? And I'm like, what the hell? Should I start a band? Should I start a podcast? We all know how that went.
The podcast is growing, thankfully. That's like,
but it kind of was born out of that endless of possibilities. And I think what you're saying, Julie, is very true. You just sometimes can get paralyzed because now you don't have anyone telling you what to do. Now it's up to you.
Yeah, exactly. It's up to you whether like you wake up at 12 p.m. or whether you wake up at like 8 and start your day and do something productive. And I feel like also social media plays a very big part of it, because every day like you scroll through Instagram and TikTok and you see people like your age or younger who are like in their 18s, 20s, early 20s, and you see them being influencers, being like extremely successful, and it's really paralyzing because you feel like you're falling behind. So like on one hand you have all of these options, but on the other hand you feel like you already had a bad start because you're not doing what they're doing at this time. So yeah, I just think it's so stressful to be put in that situation when you had so many options all of a sudden.
I can resonate so well with what Raquel said about when you suddenly become unemployed, you find yourself in a situation when you have endless possibilities and no one telling you what to do. And you at start, you don't really know what to do with yourself because that's not what you've been prepared for your whole life. You're prepared for a very organized schedule where exactly someone is telling you what to do. But now you've got the freedom. You've got so many choices to make, so many things to do in your life. And I thought it's going to be super scary. But once I started doing it and once it finally happened in my life, it honestly has been the most incredible experience the most incredible thing I could have done for myself because it all went so well. And yeah, that's the big reveal. Quitting my job was the best thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Honestly,
Because
that's so good to hear. Like, you have no idea how hopeful it is to hear something like that, because we're approaching those like similar decisions, you know? So it's kind of like, oh my God, like I'm happy someone's doing it and it's working out for them, because it means it can work out for us too.
absolutely, yes.
This is like a preaching
Foreshadowing.
for the future. Slightly cultish of like, wait, quit your jobs. But you kind of started doing progressing a career from like working in digital marketing to actually be the marketing yourself almost. Like you've been doing more like influencer content online. And how has that been? Because you kind of turned from being the content consumer to be the content creator. And yeah, I would really love to see how is your experience, because you don't know how many times we said to each other, should we just start filming ourselves?
Yeah, we're always like, should we just try like making content out of this? Because I feel like
should we just photograph our like our
daily
outfits?
life?
Yeah.
I don't think it's so, and honestly, I cannot tell you how many times like I go to work and people are like, you should just like start photographing your outfits and become a fashion influencer. And I'm always like, no, like what do you mean? I could never do that. And I'm like, actually, I should do that.
Yeah, I think it's been it's as you see so many people online doing this, like suddenly quitting your job and starting to follow another path. And I thought initially when I did that and I wanted to also like start sharing my life with people, I thought it was going to be such a saturated space.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be a chance to kind of stand out from that and have some success. And I'm not even sure if I can say I'm having some success now with that space, because after almost 7 months, 8 months creating content now, which was with the 3.5 month break. So actually only 4.5 months, maybe 5 months of creating content very regularly. I'm not even sure if I can say I've had success in it. I mean, if someone else was looking from the other perspective on it. But if I look at myself and the journey I've been through and how easy life has become in terms of how much I enjoy it again. Yeah. So when it happened immediately, it was just very scary with all the opportunities you have, but also very stressful. But at the same time, it was so fulfilling because you suddenly have all the time in the world to do the things you love and you're passionate about, which in my case is travel. I've started this whole year of me quitting my job from the biggest dream I've had for 10 years to go to Hawaii. And I went to Hawaii and it was just such a beautiful experience. Like I was so emotional every day being in Hawaii because I got to be there. I got to see it. I waited 10 years to do that. And then I got to go to Australia and it was like big dream after another big dream. And it just keeps you motivated and keeps you in such good energy. And then suddenly when you're so free and so happy and so open to people and people can actually see that and just feel that from you, then life suddenly just throws all those opportunities at your face. And there's also another aspect of this. When you know you don't have a steady stream of income coming to your bank account, you suddenly become so freaking creative. You find so many ways to make money in the from other sources that it's crazy, because your brain is going like, whoa, what am I doing? What should I do? And then you come up with like the craziest ideas.
And then it works, and you know, you end up being fine in the end, hopefully.
Yes.
It's so, that's like, I think the part that's most scary for me, it's like having like a steady financial situation, for example. So what you're saying about, you know, being so open, and how that kind of you yourself being open and just like letting go of all the prejudices that you might have, or like all the fears, kind of gives you those opportunities, because you know, sometimes you may see something online, you may see something on whatever, enter this like contest or whatever, or submit your work somewhere, or do this or do that, and you're like, oh, whatever, I probably won't get it anyway. But when you don't have any other options, you're like, I have to do this. And then, you know, you may end up like, actually something may end up happening out of it, And I feel like that's so true that if you let yourself be open to it, things kind of seem to appear. For me, for example, I kind of tend to compare my life now to like my life at uni, especially at the end of uni. And
Mm-hmm.
I always feel like I've done so much more when I was at uni, and I felt so much more successful then because I was also again so free, and I was looking for opportunities constantly because I was
Mm-hmm.
about my work and I was trying to make these opportunities happen to me, and they kind of did. As soon as I started putting myself out there, trying to meet new people, go to events and whatnot, like things started happening, and it kind of all stopped when I got a job because I got so comfortable with having a job that, you know, I end up working 9 hours and I come home and I watch Netflix and I'm on my phone and that's about it. And every day is exactly the same. And whenever I face having an opportunity like that again, I'm kind of making excuses for myself because I say like, oh, I'm too tired or nothing's gonna happen out of it anyway, so it's just a waste of my time because I have a steady job anyways. So I commit all my energy into something that I don't really want to be doing. So yeah, I think that's really true.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. And I think I also remember like getting very comfortable in my job, and I stayed there for a whole year, and then I was forced to leave because I was made redundant. And it was really a wake-up call. Like I remember being very sad at the time that happened because again, something once again out of my control took control over my life. Like I didn't want to leave the job, but the job did not want to me anymore. And it was very soul crushing because like I've been here for a whole year. I've worked my ass off for this place and they never cared about me. It's really bad. Like it really affects your confidence, like in terms of professionally or like your work. And
Mm-hmm.
now, like a year later, it changed my life completely. And as you're saying, when you're trying to, well, now I have to go find something. I need to promote myself, I need to promote my work. I had so many more opportunities. I've experienced way more different things, personal life and professional life. I've had much more experiences. Did I have stress? Yes, I had a lot of stress, but it actually
Yes.
taught me way more different things and different experiences in this freelance work. And I'm still not steady. I still don't have the stable life that I had. And at some points I did get a bit depressed in the things like, oh God, like I'm not doing enough. Like I'm not doing enough. I'm not having the career I planned for myself. I'm not having the career that was planned for me. When I look back towards the year that I was having the career, technically, it was actually not good. I was not happy. And now this whole year that I've not have that career and I've been just having different experiences here and there, I'm growing much more as a person. I feel like I grew more professionally in the last 3 months of this new season than the whole year of the other one. And that
Yes.
helps. I think that helped when you feel like the lowest, like no, the last
Yeah.
been better.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you get to meet so many new people. You get to hear so many new perspectives because you suddenly find yourself in a completely different setting where you all don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it anyways.
Yeah.
It's just, I think it takes a lot of learning of how to actually manage your time and how to get the jobs, the other jobs. And it's definitely, as you said, Raquel, it's really, really stressful. But I think the stressful part is actually to get adjusted to this new setting where you don't know what you're doing and you want to be very productive, but at the same time you don't know how.
Yeah, that's very true.
And that's the scariest part. But once you learn it, life suddenly becomes so beautiful and so easy. And then you make those connections and you make further connections. And then suddenly I find myself in a situation now where work comes to me and I get to decide whether I want to take this opportunity or not. Is it worth my time or is it not?
Yeah, it's so interesting what you said. Also, obviously, I you would think that like being, as you said, it's like such a highly saturated market, and I feel like everyone is trying to make it out like on their own. So especially, you know, in such expensive places that you're kind of like you'll do anything to survive. So for me, like I would think, because I'm a very pessimistic person and I tend to assume the worst of everyone. So you would think that people would be out to get each other, like that people wouldn't be very supportive. But from what you're saying, it seems everyone is kind of trying to do their best. So people tend to help each other and like people find find each other. Like if you're meant to find the people that will help you, you will, because you're open to them. And I think that's refreshing to hear, because I feel like most of the time when you look online, you hear about drama, and in corporate world as well, because people in corporate are so shady. Like everyone is out to get each other. So it's really nice to hear that when you come out on your own, you seem to be able to find like a more supportive community of people around you, which I think is really nice.
Yes, it is definitely so uplifting to be around people that kind of think in the same way, and they're struggling to like find the rhythm of life and find the sources of revenue. I wouldn't say, I mean, at the beginning, it's always a struggle because the money's running out. You're living off your savings. I came to Australia with a lot of savings, so I was prepared to live off my savings for 6 months. But you cannot do that forever. Now I've been here for, I think, 9 months, and you cannot support yourself from your savings because the savings actually run out. But for me, it's been ever since I started creating content, because I was doing the things I was loving the most. So traveling and also going to Formula One races. I think, yes, because that's how I started. I went to Hawaii, then I moved to Sydney in Australia, and then I went to Melbourne immediately to do Formula One in Melbourne, which is the start of the season. So fans are really excited, and I was super excited. So I started recording that, and I think when you posted and when you're so excited about this, people noticed this. So it immediately went kind of viral because it wasn't even like it was a strategy as well. If you're doing social media, you have to be consistent. And that's the thing that was stopping me from doing social media when I was having a corporate job. Because I always wanted to do this. I was a storyteller. I always wanted to show people how my life is going. I wanted to be, because I'm a person who's been traveling a lot. I've been living in the US. I've been living in England. Yes, that's how I know Raquel, but Julia I know from Poland. But that's how I know a lot of people. They all come on this one source, which is Instagram, because everyone our age, which is millennials/Gen Z, is using Instagram, not TikTok. So that's the platform that I chose. And I never had time to do that when I was living. And I was also not doing the things I was particularly very excited about, which was going to the office every day and coming back.
You're not gonna like vlog your day every day and be like, welcome to my 9 to 5. Here's me sitting at my desk for 8 hours. On the same spot every single day, going to the same place for lunch, and then maybe doing something slightly different on the weekend if you're lucky.
Yeah, and that is, that content would be super interesting to people as well, because so many people could resonate with that content, right? But at the same time, as you've mentioned, Julia, before, you are so tired. And when you go to a 9 to 5 job, you have to wake up beforehand, like do your breakfast, leave, commute to work. And then when you come back, you're literally so tired. And I think the whole system is rigged because they make us tired. They make us work so much. And then you go back home and then you watch Netflix and then you buy stuff to make yourself happy. So it's like consumerism over and over. You keep buying stuff and then you keep watching, and you don't really invest in yourself because you're too tired from your day-to-day job. So in the weekend, you usually use for the things you like doing, but because you only have 2 days, there's a very limited time frame of what you can do. And usually the first day, like Saturday, is a sleep-in day. You just rest. And then Sunday you start, be ready to explore and do some more stuff.
But then you remember you didn't do your laundry or like do your groceries, and you're like, fuck, I gotta stay at home anyway.
And then if you live in England, everything closes at 4 p.m.
Yeah, exactly.
On a Sunday.
Or it's the weekend and the storm comes and you can't even leave your fucking house because the weather is so bad that you can't actually do anything. Stormbird. Shout out.
Sorry,
I'm so sorry.
This was like a very local. Sorry, Australia. It was a very local rant.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
But it's so true. It's like there's so many things that you think of doing and so many things that you want to do, but what's stopping you is your regular life. in a sense, because you have no space to engage in that. Like I remember at the start of the year, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the gym and I'm gonna commit more time to develop things that I care about. And you would think that having a stable job that's like pretty basic, I'm not a surgeon, you know, it's not like I'm saving lives or whatever. You would think that you should have that space, like that mind space and that space in life to do those things, because technically it's so scheduled. So it would seem that like you should be able to fit it in. But as you said, it makes us so brainwashed and so tired that in a way, when we're more busy and when we're just doing other things that may be more time consuming and more stressful, but at the same time are more fulfilling, we tend to like make more space for the things that we enjoy doing. And I relate to that so much because, as I said, a year has passed and I feel like I've not done that many things at all. If I think about this year, I can count like the remarkable things that happen on like, you know, my two hands. And I feel like my life is almost, obviously it's not the same as it has been last year. It's actually quite different, but in a way it kind of feels like I'm still in the same space because I'm like in the same work environment and everything seems to be going exactly as it was. And I just feel like there was no space for me to do other things.
I think that also has to do with, for example, when you are at school, there's an ending point, and you know that when you go, you know, either be regular high school, you know, it's going to finish after 3-4 years, whatever system you are. You go to do a degree, which is usually the first one around 3 years or 4. You know, there's an end. So I think like there's always a goal, right? So it's work towards a goal that is like the graduation or that one project or that one dissertation, whatever that is. Like there's an end goal and you finish and you wrap up beautifully on a grand diploma.
Or you like strive to do good because you want to get to a better uni, or you strive to do good because you want to get a good job afterwards. So you always have something in mind that you're working towards too.
Yeah, and the job, this regular corporate job, that goal doesn't exist. It's on the go, rolling.
Yeah, you may work for like a promotion or whatever, but at some point, but then at some point also you reach a moment when you know you don't know when it's gonna happen, you don't know if it's gonna happen, so you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and it's kind of leading you up to nowhere. You don't get any development in your life whatsoever, and most people can relate to that like any corporate job, it's kind of you maybe learn new things for the first few months, and then after that it's just the same. Like obviously things happen and emergencies happen and situations happen that let you develop a bit more, but those are very singular points throughout. Most of the time you kind of feel like you're repeating the same scenario over and over again. It's almost like reliving the same day of your life like all the time.
Yeah, you're stuck in a loop.
Exactly. And then you know that the other people on the other end that you're working with are on the same end of the stick, so it's kind of like nothing matters anymore because it's just the same.
This is starting to get
so depressing.
This is getting depressed. Like nothing matters. My life doesn't matter.
I think we should let Ola speak again and bring all to the episode and bring us back into how you found this year. If you were to summarize this year in like, you know, a few sentences, what would you tell to people like us who are still on the other side?
Yeah, people who also are listening and perhaps are slightly scared that initial step. What would you say, taking into account this whole year that has passed for you?
Yeah, sure. Oh my God, that would be so difficult because so much has happened. But the only sentence that's like coming up to my head at the moment is just, it's been the best year of my life. It's been
that's great, I think. That's very hopeful.
It's the point where I've made so many of my dreams come true so effortlessly and so easily that I ran out of like big dreams to fulfill.
Oh my God.
And now I have to sit down now and write down what my goals are for next. Soon we're going to enter into a new year. That's a great place to like sit down, write down my resolutions for next year. But honestly, it all felt like a dream, maybe apart from the part when I had to be in the desert. I mean, this was a great experience overall, but I was employed again, so I was in that time frame. And I think that's where I realized I'm just not made for work, because I thought, you know, before coming to Australia, I thought my life it's just the fact that I'm in Poland, the fact that the weather is bad, and that's why it makes me very sad and unproductive and like really not willing to do something more apart from just having a great time with my friends on the weekend and working towards my other goals because I was too tired. And then I came to Australia, and for 4 months, it's been fantastic. I had the freedom of choice. I could do whatever I wanted to. And then I entered the workspace again. So I was working in the, okay, maybe not very regular, because working in hospitality is very different.
Yeah.
And I also knew on top of my mind that it's just very temporary. It's for 3 months, and I had to do this. I wasn't doing it for the money. I wasn't doing it for the experience. I was literally doing it just to prolong my visa. And then at the end of that experience, when I came back to Sydney and I'm back to the unemployment again, doing my own thing. I mean, self-employment, because I'm technically self-employed, but I can jump on that later on. Anyways, I realized that I'm in Australia, the country I love the most, and I feel so sad in the desert. Why is that? It's because I'm back to work again, back in those frames, I solved it.
Confirmed the suspicion. The work is the bad thing. We shouldn't work.
Exactly.
I mean, being in Australia helps a lot. Even if I had a normal job in Australia, I think my experience would be so different than the one back at home, that I would enjoy it more, because after work I could go to the beach and you feel like you're being on holiday the whole time because it's so sunny and so nice. But overall, it's just getting out of that regular time frames of being stuck in an office for a certain amount of time. This is the most liberating feeling in the whole world. And there are days at the beginning when you don't really do much, because you're just focusing on resting. And then suddenly, when you are not doing a lot, you realize, oh, maybe I should start doing something. And then you come up with those crazy ideas. And then your calendar fills up by itself, because there's so many in your life. You now get space for the things you enjoy, and you love it. And people feel your passion. People feel that you're doing something you love. So for me, it's always been content creation. I loved recording, and I loved just showing stories to people.
Mm-hmm.
And once I started doing the content creation in that space, people started noticing, oh, you're doing it really well. Like, we really like your style of editing. So then when you look at your Instagram, it starts growing. And then obviously when it starts growing, people can see that, and also clients can see that.
Yeah.
Brands can see that. And they start reaching out to you. I thought at the beginning I'll be sending emails to a lot of companies.
Yeah, you would be like begging for, like, hey,
begging for
do you
partnerships.
wanna, like, do a collab? Do you want to like send me some stuff and I can promote you? Yeah.
Yeah, but actually, looking back at my whole journey so far, I haven't gotten any partnership from my outsourcing email. So I was sending an email to someone, and then we entered a collaboration. It actually never happened. It was always someone reaching out to me and asking if I would like to consider the opportunity to collaborate. And apart from this work that I'm doing on Instagram, this year was all about trying all the things I'd never had time to do, but I really wanted to. So I'm trying acting. I'm trying modeling again. I'm going to go into the finance space. I'm going to try investing. I'm going to do a couple of courses. And then potentially I want to start coding as well. I want to get into that space. So I'm just going to be trying so many opportunities and see what clicks. To sum it up, sorry, I drifted away from the main topic. How's this year been? It's been fantastic. I can say that even if the hardships I had to go through, they were not as hard. And in terms of the money, because people are probably still interested, how am I able to sustain myself in such an expensive city and with no job, being self-employed? I've never earned more money in my entire life than I'm earning right now.
No
Literally.
way.
God.
Yeah.
God.
It's crazy, because now in 2 hours, I can make my whole monthly salary if I get a really good deal. And really,
Ola, you're like, I think
You're selling it
you're
so
selling,
hard.
you're selling this.
After this episode, I'm like, write an email sometime.
Like, my resignation letter is coming through.
no, but you have to learn that working in freelance and working as a self-employed person, it's not going to be constant flow of revenue.
Yeah,
so that means
about it. You have to plan and save, and
you have to save, but at the same time, you also have to put the work in every day, because you never know when you get your 5 minutes and then you get one partnership, one brand deal, or one on job location and you get your whole monthly salary, but you have to be prepared for it. You have to build your skill set. So there's probably a lot of people thinking about starting doing social media, and they're like, oh, I'm going to start posting and no one is going to be watching that. So it's not going to happen. Like they give up after a week of posting. But that's exactly the biggest mistake you can make. You have to be consistent. You have to put in the work constantly, even if it's not showing results in the first place, then it's going to show the results. And eventually you're going to end up having the audience, having the followers, because people like watching people who are consistent and showing up and doing the work every day, even though it's not bringing me any revenue, right?
Yeah, like you never, especially with social media being so chaotic in a sense, like you never know what's going to go viral too. Like you never know, you may be posting for like a year and then suddenly you do like a little silly video and it happens to go viral and suddenly you never know when that's going to happen. And obviously you can have tactics and you can plan, but I think the nature of social media itself is quite unpredictable, despite like it being run by various trends, etc. You literally never know. Like one thing can change your entire perspective and your entire
Exactly.
life. So
There's
if you don't take the chance, I guess like the takeaway is like you'll never find out. So all you can do is try.
Exactly.
Honestly, I feel like I've just listened to a TED Talk.
Yeah, you're like, I'm ready. I'm ready to take on the next year.
Honestly,
new way, new
2025,
Come on in.
New year, new me.
Yeah, I feel like everyone, if it's not social media, everyone should at least at one point in their life try to give themselves a year to do their hobbies, the things they wanted to do. For example, if you wanted to be a tattoo artist your whole life, well, then quit your job. You have experience already. You have your CV built, and then you work for a year. You try to do. If it doesn't work out, then you can always come back. For me, that's the case. I can always come back, and then on my CV, I can just say, if they ask about this year break from work, I can just say I just signed an NDA. I can't say anything about this. That's
actually really smart.
Great tip. Note it down.
Put like self-employed, NDA, restricted, can't talk about it.
Yeah.
And then just make something up.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage people to try. It doesn't have to be social media, but you'll notice once you quit and start doing your own thing. I mean, don't quit unresponsibly. What I mean by that, you should be ready for that. You should have savings, because like money doesn't come from the trees. You have to be reasonable.
You should have something to fall back on, of course. You shouldn't just do it on a whim, which I'm sometimes very tempted to do. But but yeah, I think that's very true. Well, our time is running out. So
thank you so much, Ola.
Honestly, this was very inspirational, and I hope it reaches the people who need to hear it, because
and I'm sure it will. And yeah, you are very welcome to come back to heaven. We really loved having you here, and I hope everyone at home feels inspired as well to follow on Ola's footsteps. I know we will.
I will definitely. Honestly, I haven't felt so hopeful about my life in a long time. So this has really like raised my spirits. So thank you. And it was so nice chatting to you.
Yeah, and we'll talk to all of you very soon. Thank you and bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.